Yeah, I'm getting used to this hour now with this launch I'm doing. So
Yes,
it's just
yes.
about an hour more than I normally do, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're ready to go. I've got a little smiley sign here. So I guess we're live. Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday and Facebook Live, and welcome, welcome. My apologies for a little bit late delay. At 12:59, my phone starts buzzing, and I'm saying, why is my phone buzzing? And I realized that my alarm didn't go off to wake me up, and my staff was trying to reach me. So here we are. And hello. We've got a guest today. I'm really happy that we've got Lloyd Burrell with us, and Lloyd happens to be in France right now, so we're in the same time zone, given that I'm in Switzerland and Lloyd's in France, and so you're getting the European transmission tonight. So hello, and hello, Lloyd. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Dr. Tom. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course, of course. So tonight's talk is on, I think some of you have heard me say there are four sides to the pyramid of health. I talk about a pyramid. When we're wanting to get healthy, there are four different areas we have to look at. We have to look at the structure, the base of the pyramid. We have to look at the biochemistry. We have to look at the emotional or spiritual side. And we have to look at the electromagnetics. And that fourth one, the electromagnetics, is the newest in the field for us to be looking at. Never before in the history of humanity have we been exposed to the type of electromagnetic pollution that is now having an impact on us. At first, it was minimal intensity of exposure or length of exposures. Now it's so common that we have to include it in the pyramid of health as one of the four areas that may be the trigger to any health condition, any health condition. So, and Lloyd is hosting a summit coming up on electromagnetics, and he's interviewed a number of speakers on that. So Lloyd, let me just turn it over to you with the first question. Please tell us about electromagnetics, and then we'll talk about the summit. I'm going to put the link in here for everyone in case any of you are over here in Europe and you want to go to sleep afterwards, or anytime if you fall asleep. The link's here so you can click on it to register for the event. But Lloyd, let's just talk first about why electromagnetics. Why is that the topic that you've chosen?
Well, it's not so much the topic that I've chosen, it's more like the topic that chose me.
Okay.
And the story behind this is so I have a website, but there's a reason I have a website, and there's a reason why I'm talking about this. And the reason is because one day in 2002, I had a telephone conversation which changed my life. And you've probably heard that before. Except the difference with my telephone conversation was it wasn't what was said in that telephone conversation. It was the energy of the device I was using, which was a cell phone. And what happened was very simply was one day in February, I remember very, very clearly this day. I remember exactly what happened. It's burned into my memory. I answered my cell phone, and I began to feel a strange sensation. That's all I can say. Something rather bizarre, kind of seeing stars, disturbed spatial awareness, can we say? And I finished the call. It was slightly unpleasant. I can't say any more than that. And then another call came in. And at the time I was running a rental business, and people used to call me a lot to make bookings. It wasn't I was calling out, it's people calling in. And I answered the phone a second time, and very, very quickly, this unpleasant sensation turned into a pain, a rather severe pain. The whole side of my head that I was holding the cell phone was just burning up, prickly, itchy, just on fire, and my ear burning, aching. And within a few days, I say to people, you know, jokingly, it got so bad that I went to see my doctor. And
that's really bad. That's got to be bad when that happens.
Yeah, because I'm not really one. I barely had a day's work, a day off work all my life. I've always loved what I'm doing, and had a good energy and, you know, positive attitude to life, and this thing was really bothering me. So I went to see him, and doctor's a friend, and he kind of looked me over, prodded and poked me, and he said, well, I can't really see anything wrong with you. You've got a bit of high blood pressure. He said to me, you're stressed. So I said, well, okay. I explained about the cell phone and everything, and he was kind of sympathetic, but he said, look, take a week off, go on holiday, come back, you'll be fine. So I took his advice.
Now, hold on a minute, Lloyd. Two things. First, were you still experiencing those symptoms a week later when you went to see the doctor?
Well, I didn't go to see the doctor a week later. What I did was I took the week off and I stopped using the cell phone, and I was fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had waited a while to go see the doctor. So when you got these symptoms, did you go right away?
Yeah, I went to see the doctor within like 3 or 4 days. So it was pretty extreme for me to go that quickly. It was really bothering me.
And were you still experiencing the symptoms?
When I took the week off, I was fine.
No. In the doctor's office.
No. The symptoms came on. That was where I'm very fortunate, is that cell phone, pain, no cell phone, no pain. And that's how it started. But that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
That was just the beginning. And so I came back from the week's holiday, and the first time I put the cell phone next to my head, boom, it all started again. And from there, it was just a slippery, slidey slope, because it wasn't just a cell phone. It was my computer. It wasn't just my computer. It was a TV. It was the radio in the car. It was even going in the car. It was going around to friends' houses. It was being in my own home. It was everywhere. It was like I was allergic to everything, including my corded landline. Even that, it was starting to burn up. And
right,
literally,
I'm going to ask you to pause a moment, because what we've got here is a yellow canary in the coal mine. This is a guy who developed symptoms just from being around electromagnetic pollution in any amount. It started to affect him somehow, and his doctor told him it was stress. Mm-hmm. So for everyone that's listening, how many of you out there have had that, any kind of those situations where you felt something when you have a cell phone next to your head? How many of you have that? Let me see some hearts and all that. And while you're answering, let me say hello here. We've got Gail from Pittsburgh, Lynn from South Australia, Misty Rushing's in the house, Sandra from Kerry, Ireland, Glenda, Mary Nelson. Hi, Mary, glad to see you. And Kim Johnson. Kim Johnson's here. Kim was here with me last week in Switzerland. And Kim, I was just thinking about you earlier today at dinner, and missed you not being here. So I'm glad you're in the house. Christine says, Doc, I guess I'll turn off the Pink Floyd so I can hear you guys. Thanks, Christine. Appreciate that. Elizabeth from Canada, John from Texas, Sharon Wells, Kristen Kemery. So for everyone that's here, thank you so much. And there's many, many more. Just want to let you guys know that we know you're here, and thank you. And look at all of the hearts and thumbs up that are coming. So these are people who've all had some kind of symptoms like this in the past. Jewel from Phoenix, Rich in Utah. Okay, Lloyd, let's continue. Oh, there's Lloyd. I thought we lost Lloyd.
No, Lloyd's here. I was just getting I'm going to show you some meters later on.
Oh, excellent.
Electromagnetic field meters. So I'm just pulling them out here.
Okay, so Lloyd, you came back from your holiday. You picked up your phone, and the same thing happened again.
The same thing happened again, and it just got worse, because it wasn't just a cell phone. I was sensitive to light also. That was something which became very noticeable because I was running my own business basically with my wife. And so I gave my wife the cell phone and said, look, I'll go on the computer. And then I started reacting to the computer. And I remember very distinctly, it was this terrible sensitivity to light. And yeah, basically my life became, I'm telling it and I'm laughing as I'm saying it, but it wasn't funny at all. And my life became a living hell. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I got just so many different symptoms because, as you said at the beginning, EMFs affect us in so many ways, and they tend to go for the weakest link. That's what I've noticed. And so whatever your weakest link is, that's how it affects you. And that's why it's so difficult to diagnose or put your finger on the set and say, well, this is, EMFs are a cause or a contributing factor to whatever symptom you're experiencing.
Yes. Yes. So that brought it into your awareness that your sensitivities around televisions, around any or some appliances, not just with phones, that brought the awareness here. And when did you discover that it was just the concept of electromagnetics and that anything may trigger it for you?
Well, it's a difficult question because I think, because this was 2002 and I live in France. So the internet was like, you had to like ring in and it wasn't, and the sites were a bit cookie, it was, there wasn't information on it like there is today. And so I kind of figured out it was electromagnetic fields without really knowing what that was, because it seemed whenever I went to learn more, explore, understand, that actually I was filled with fear because there seemed like there was no solution, because nobody was offering a solution. In fact, nobody was saying, this is what's wrong with you. People were saying, I was going, my doctor sent me to see neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, every kind of that you can imagine. And I went for a battery of tests, including very intrusive testing, of course, which was more radiation exposure. And really, it seemed there was no answer. So I was actually pretending that I was okay when it was just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, there was no support out there at all. And for all of you that are listening, if you just joined, and Signe and Cricket Gagne, I think, Gagne, Christopher, Josh, the list keeps going. Thank you all for joining us. And what we're talking about is that we've got with us today Lloyd Burrell, who was a yellow canary in the coal mine against any exposures to electromagnetics. And Lloyd, as a result of this, and developed this in 2001, 2002, when you'd boot up your computer and you'd hear that familiar, "You've got mail," right? So, on AOL. Oh, I'm remembering that.
Yes.
And so Lloyd started studying this 15, 16 years ago, and has put together a summit where he's interviewed a number of experts from all over the world on this particular topic. So for many of us, it's going to be a first time OMG, I had no idea kind of event when we hear these experts talking. So Lloyd, let's talk for a minute about who are the people that you've chosen to be on this event?
Well, perhaps the most important person I've chosen is Dr. Tom OBryan. Of course, I have to mention him first, who has written a great book, which is coming out soon. And he talked quite a lot about that. Because of this, he talks about electromagnetic fields in the summit, in the book, I beg your pardon, and in the summit, obviously. And that's one of the reasons I'm guessing that he was eager to be part of the summit. But yeah, so it's a big lineup, really. We're looking at 34 world authorities on this subject. over the years, I've actually interviewed hundreds of people on this subject now. But here, there was really a lot more medical doctors, people like yourself. And one of the things I noticed was that it was the functional medicine doctors who understood this the best and knew how to deal with it the best. Also I have Dr. McCullough, which most people have heard of. Dr. McCullough, Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, which has done a lot of amazing work on EMFs also. Dr. David Carpenter, who is editor of the Bioinitiative report, very important, who knows a lot about electromagnetic fields, has been doing research on this for a number of years. Professor Olle Johansson from Sweden. Just lots of building biologists, EMF consultants, EMF experts, people who go out and it's their job to go into people's homes and measure these frequencies, because these frequencies are all around us, even though we don't realize it. Because, and that's the important thing also I just want to say here, is that don't think that Lloyd is somehow different to you, in the sense that it affects Lloyd, but it doesn't affect me because I can't feel it.
Right.
So it affects everybody. And this is, I didn't realize this at the beginning. And I realized this sometime after when I started researching it. And this is just such an important message, is the fact that it affects everybody, and it affects everybody in different ways. It's just, we call people that can feel it electrically hypersensitive or EMF sensitive, or there's lots of names for it.
You know, let me say that I had the opportunity to speak with a Hollywood movie star. I'll tell you, Fran Dresser, and who is the nanny. And just recently, I'm going to be at her event. I'm speaking at her event. Fran founded Cancer Schmancer after she was diagnosed with the cancer, and she turned this thing around with functional medicine. She's determined to bring out the awareness about functional medicine principles to the world. Mm-hmm. And that'll be in October, everyone, in Los Angeles. And it's also going to be live cast, and I'll get information to everyone about that. If you're on my notification list, if you've given your email address, or if you get emails from us now, you'll hear about this when it happens. And live cast means you'll be able to watch it live from wherever you are in the world. But I bring that up because we were talking, and she said she was so happy. She just had the switch installed next to her bed. The last thing she does at night before she goes to sleep is she turns off the wireless in the house. She turns off the wireless. And, you know, she's so happy for that because, you know, she's got a big house in Los Angeles somewhere. I think it's in Malibu, but she has a big house. And the last thing she does at night is hit the switch. And when you read the book, which I don't have a copy of here. Oh, I do. I'll grab it in a minute. When you read the book, You Can Fix Your Brain. What you realize, and I say it, one of the things you do every night is turn off the wireless before you go to sleep. Oh, thank you, honey. My lovely wife, Marzi, just got out of bed to grab this for me. So here's the book, You Can Fix Your Brain. And it comes out next week, everyone. Comes out next week. If you've not ordered a copy already, please do on Amazon. We've been ranked #1 now in a number of different categories because people are buying it, they're pre-ordering it, and Amazon goes, wow, look at this. And so they're doing more marketing for it. They made it a little bit at a discount now. I think it's, and you remember it's $17 or $21? 27. No. Yeah, go on Amazon and see what it is, please. But in any event, in the book, I talk about one of the things you do every night to protect yourself is turn off the wireless. You don't need the wireless on at night when you're sleeping. And Mary Nelson wrote in here, at least I only have a bedside lamp by the side of my bed. I do need light at night when I get up for bathroom break. Absolutely, Mary, that's fine. That's you have to check all of your appliances, and Lloyd's going to show you the equipment in a minute to check your place with. But nobody needs wireless at night when you're sleeping. Turn it off. And that's just one baby step. There is no study that I'm aware of. Maybe Lloyd's going to tell us differently. I'm not aware of it. Oh, 8 categories. We're number 1 in Amazon in 8 categories now. That's really great. Thank you, Mary Agnes. There is no study that I'm aware of that the wireless in your house is going to cause major problems for you. I'm not aware of one study. Being in a house with the wireless makes you sick. Now there may be, and there are yellow canaries in the coal mine, and Lloyd's going to tell us about that.
Well,
but one more thing with that, Lloyd, if I can, as I understand it, and you may have more current information for us, but it's the accumulative assault of everything in our lives, where the wireless then becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back. You know, so you turn it off. And for those that say there's no study that says blah 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 blah, you know, maybe there's truth to that, maybe not. Lloyd will clarify that for us. But it's the accumulation of all of the different toxins, all of the different assaults our body has that makes a difference. If you've had some experience with EMFs and about wireless, stick a note here for us. While Linda Lou says it's $17.70 on Amazon right now. So see, this is what happens when there's pre-orders. The book hasn't launched yet, but they've dropped it $10. You know, because look at this, lots of people are ordering it. So thanks so much for all of you who have already ordered it, and please do so if you haven't. On Amazon, it's called You Can Fix Your Brain. Now back to us here, Lloyd. What about this idea of not a study that shows that wireless in your home by itself is a major enough assault to cause symptoms?
I know I've no study like that, but it's the kind of thing which is impossible to study. You see, most of the studies you're looking at exposures in isolation. So you're looking at different categories. So there's basically, there's 4 categories essentially of electromagnetic fields. So EMFs, electromagnetic fields, that's how and that's the blanket term. And then within this blanket term, we have radio frequency radiation. That means things like cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, anything wireless. So when you say wireless, what you're actually saying is radio frequency radiation. Second thing is electric fields. Now, electric fields are everywhere where there is electricity. And that means, so for instance, your electrical wiring, there is an electric field, even though your light is not switched on. This is the curious thing about it. So it's like a bit like having a hose pipe with pressure on it. It's that pressure, the water's not flowing, but the pressure's still there, same principle. And then the other category is magnetic fields. And generally these go together in low frequencies, what we call power frequencies. So in the US, you're at 60 hertz, 60 cycles a second. And these are actually promulgating at right angles, these electric fields and magnetic fields. And then we have this 4th category, which we call dirty electricity or intermediary frequencies. And this means frequencies kind of which shouldn't be there. So we've got the 60 hertz sine wave. You remember at school, you remember seeing that on that machine that, you know, in the physics lesson, which shows the electricity, how it flows, except now we've got like this on the sine wave, and that is the dirty electricity. And the sine wave is a 60, it's what we should have, but we've got all this other crap, excuse my French, which is being introduced onto this pollution, which is being introduced onto really into our lives. And the important thing to understand is this pollution, be it on our electrical wiring or be it on in the wireless. So on the electrical wiring, it doesn't stay on the wires, it permeates out into the room and into you. And what is in the air, it permeates into you. So anywhere you can you get your cell phone. I haven't got a cell phone, but I was going to pick my cell phone up, but I haven't got one. Anywhere where you've got a signal, then you have radio frequency radiation, which is permeating into you. And this is basic, you know, physics. It goes through us, literally. I mean, there's certain studies which says it'll go through 10 people. Just a a cell phone signal. It's that powerful.
Wow. It goes 10 people.
It can go through 10 people. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So to answer your question about the studies, there's no study which says, you know, the wireless in a home, you know, causes disease or whatever. That is true. But all these studies, they're all looking at just the radio frequency radiation or just the magnetic fields or just the, we're not looking, as you say, at the cumulative exposures. And that is what is important. And, you know, personally, I take a different line to you because I've been talking about this online since 2010. I've got thousands of people commented on this on my website over the years, literally. And I've spoken to so many people, experts on this, that really wireless for me now in our home, particularly where there's children, particularly where there's young children, I'm sorry, but it's a no-no. It is just a no-no. And that might sound extreme. And so what I invite you to do, if it does sound extreme, is come to the EMF Summit. It's all free, 34 speakers, 35 interviews, because one's a double because it was a very long one, chopped it into 35 interviews. It's all free. And you will see, you know, just how important this is to all our lives, really, because while, you know, wireless is taking over our lives, 5G is just around the corner. And, you know, if you're sleeping in a home, just to answer this question about the wireless, you know, should we, shouldn't we, is okay or not okay? And, you know, putting it in the context of what you're saying about the wireless exposures, then in your home, you can control these exposures in many, many ways. And that's what we talk about in the summit, is how to mitigate these exposures. And that is what you need to do. So, and doing that, honestly, is a no-brainer, because particularly given the way things are going, because we've got this external environment, which is difficult to control. So as soon as you walk outside your door, then you can't really control that. And therefore, what we have to do is control what's happening in our internal environment, in our homes, and particularly in our bedrooms, as you was referring to earlier.
Lloyd, you're making such an important point. I just did a talk here tonight at the clinic that I'm at in Switzerland, everyone, and Kim knows. Kim, who's watching, was here last week. I just did a talk tonight, and I was saying that never before in the history of humanity have we been exposed to so many toxins as human beings that we are now exposed to, and that this is the primary reason why we have such an increase in diabetes, in heart disease, in autoimmune diseases, such an increase in autism, the diseases that come from lifestyle, the diseases that come from our environmental exposures. Never before have we had this like we do now. So the topic that you're talking about, for so many people, they're going to say, what kind of nonsense is this? That they've not heard of this, they've got no exposure to this, and the result is it's easy to dismiss it as fanaticism. But I'm telling you, as Lloyd was talking about what dirty electricity is, what came up in my mind was, well, that sounds like the EEGs of people with gluten sensitivity that have seizures. And if that's the weak link in their chain is their brain and they get seizures, in the studies that showed the dirty electricity type of EEGs, and then when these children or adults go gluten-free, the EEGs go back to normal. They go back to normal, completely back to normal. And their seizures are gone. And the result is, so I thought, well, that sounds just like that. So I just went to PubMed, and it's public medical, it stands for Public Medical Information, it's National Library of Medicine. And I typed in EMF and seizures, and there's 10 studies that come up right away. 10 studies on EMF and seizures. So this is not fanaticism, folks. You're going to learn so much at his event of jaw-dropping information. It's going to be what? Again, and again. You know, it won't stop.
You know, there are thousands of studies on this, and it's like we think of the electromagnetic fields is somehow a new thing, But if you go back to the beginning, if you go back, and there's a great book on this written by a gentleman called Arthur Furstenberg. He's not a doctor, Arthur Furstenberg it's called. And it's called The Electric Rainbow, I believe. And he's done a lot of research on it, and he's really gone back and looking at right when electricity started, you know, back in the 1700s, 1800s, already they were observing that there were effects on the body. And you've got a gentleman called D'Arsonval and also Nikola Tesla back in 1891. They did a study on this, one of the very first studies on this, and they already found that electricity impacted the human body, impacted our perspiration, respiration, and a third one, I forget now. There was, so it was already back in, you know, over 100 years ago, there were studies done on this, and there's been many more studies done on this, particularly since the Second World War, when radar was introduced, because they started to notice that radar operators, they started getting cataracts, and not just cataracts, all kinds of different cancers and things. And so there is a lot of science on this, and we are talking thousands of studies, thousands and thousands of studies. I think there's one database, a German database, it's got over 60,000 studies on electromagnetic fields. So we don't know about this because, unfortunately, this information's not out there. It's not in your newspapers. It's not on, you know, CNN or whatever, the main news channels, but it is there. It is, you know, the science is there.
I'm sure that you found that there's quite an effort to suppress the information, and the industry is saying there's no evidence, that's nonsense. And it, you know, it reminds me back in the 1950s, and I was just a little kid back then, you know, but you look at the newspaper articles on, and everyone was saying that those mushroom clouds you see when they do above ground nuclear testing in Arizona and New Mexico, oh, there's no problem, don't worry, it's safe. The government say it was safe, and it was in the newspapers, it was safe. And we know better than that. And in the 1960s, it was cigarettes and the ads that say, here's the brand that doctors recommend most, Camel cigarettes. They're safe for you, they're safe. And in the 1970s, it was margarine, and how safe margarine was for you. It was a new technology because butter was bad, right? And we consistently hear time and time again by corporate industry that the products they're manufacturing, the things that impact on lifestyle are safe for us. And we know much better than that. But this is the next frontier. And this is one that everyone needs to know about. Amanda wrote in and said, I turn off my Wi-Fi at night, but my computer shows 11 other Wi-Fi services reach my home that aren't switched off. I live on half an acre, so I can't imagine what people in apartments are exposed to. Can't wait to find out how to block these out. Thanks. Yes. And that's exactly what this event is about, is to identify what you can do about this. And Lloyd, you've got a meter or two that you wanted to show us. Can you talk about that, what they are and how we use them?
Lots of meters here. I've got meters galore. The easiest meter is this one, actually, which I put a French plug on it just for fun, otherwise it wouldn't work. But this one is the microserve meter developed by Dr. Graham and Mr. Dave Stetzer, who is actually on the summit also. Not Dr. Graham, unfortunately, he's deceased, but Dave Stetzer's on the summit. And this measures your dirty electricity. And I'll start with this one because it's the simplest. This one is honestly, it's EMF mitigation for idiots. You just plug the thing in, gives you a number, and you want for it to be below 50. That's what the manufacturers say. Yes. And obviously, there's a lot of science behind this. They actually went to Russia because the Russians, of course, are way ahead of us on the whole EMF thing. And they really boil this down, if you want, to some simple numbers, but it's actually based on voltage. It's a voltage calculation, voltage over time. and we're measuring, it's giving us a number in these units, which they call Graham-Stetzer units, GS units, and we're looking for below 50. And I can guarantee you plug this into any home, it will be above 50. So you will be looking for, again, why is it important? Because these are frequencies which studies show, and there's Professor Magda Havas has done studies on this in Trent University in Canada, that these frequencies are particularly biologically active, okay? And they affect us in many ways, and lots of animal studies on this also, because sometimes...
What's the name of this device?
So this is a Stetzer meter, or a microsurge meter, or a dirty electricity meter. It comes under lots of names. Very simple.
And
we're looking for under 50.
The company that makes it?
So it's Stetzer. If you go on internet, it's a Mr. Dave Stetzer, who is an electrician, but a high-level electrician. He's a power expert. Used to work for the military, and he developed this very simple tool so that you can identify in your home, yes, no problem. You can even identify the devices which are causing a problem, which will tend to be things like TVs, because most TVs are smart TVs, computers, really anything very, very new, because it tends to have smart technology which is not smart, because it's got these devices in, things like switch mode power supplies, which chop the current, and a bit like this lighting that we see everywhere now. I haven't got this, I've just got an old-fashioned incandescent, but which creates this very brilliant bright white light, and which actually is quite, it looks like a light, but it's actually a flicker. There's a permanent flicker which your eyes can't see, but your brain can.
Your brain can, absolutely. You can throw your brain out. That's why.
That's the first meter. And then really, to go with, I mean, I've showed you some others, but if I'm trying to keep this simple, I would be going with this meter here. And this is a cornet meter, and there's lots of cornet meters, but this is the cornet, and they keep adding a letter and a number after it. So it's the cornet ED88T plus now, okay? So I've been reviewing these meters since they came out, and it was like the ED88 or something at one time. So they keep adding a letter and a number, these guys that are making these meters. And the reason I like this meter is, we'll just switch it on here and see what it's doing. So it's not doing a lot here because, so it's actually measuring, I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but it's measuring, I put the light on it. It's measuring radio frequency radiation. And what I can do actually is I can switch on my Wi-Fi on this computer, because the other thing to understand is when you have Wi-Fi, everything that can connect with Wi-Fi is two-way, so emits and receives. So I have a modem, which is actually a wireless modem, but it switches off. I never have the wireless, never have. And then this laptop, which I'm using, for instance, then we have turn Wi-Fi on.
It's hard to see when the light's on. If you turn the light off, it's more visible on the screen.
I think you can see there's a light. You can see the lights going up and down there.
Yeah.
Oh, if I switch the light off on the screen, and then you can hear it there. Okay. So you can hear that.
Yeah.
So if I switch off, and you can see the green light there.
Yeah.
If I switch off, there you go. You see, you've heard that noise before, I'm sure, like on your radio sometimes when you get when you've got your cell phone on and the call comes through. There we go. I switched it off.
Yep.
And it stopped doing the. So we got like a and it stopped doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll put it back on again just so you can see. There we go. So, and that measures radio frequency radiation. That's what we're doing. I'll switch it off again. And so what happened to me was that I could feel that. And I could feel it in a big way.
Yeah.
And it was really bothering me. And literally, I couldn't think. I got brain fog. I couldn't concentrate. It was like, you know, get me out of here. Beam me up, Scotty. I want to go. So that is radio frequency radiation. And then we press the mode button here. So we've got the green mode button. And that changes it to another. It will measure another frequency. So you remember before I told you about these 4 different categories: radio frequency, radiation, electric fields, magnetic fields, dirty electricity. So we press the button and it says Gauss on it, and Gauss is a measure of magnetic fields. And so it's actually measuring these magnetic fields. So magnetic fields, what you find on your electrical wiring and anything electrical pretty much. So for instance, this computer, I'll see if you can't see that. And it's not making a noise now.
Well, you know, I've just gotten a message from my team that we will share this with the community afterwards. We'll get the names, the numbers.
Yes.
So some people are asking for it, and we'll share it. It'll be listed here. Come back to the site tomorrow, and you'll see it's posted here. When you come back to the Facebook site tomorrow, we will have posted the names of this equipment, the model numbers, and so that everyone can access it. This is the kind of thing that we all need to learn about.
It is, and it's the kind of thing which we're all going to have in our homes, I think, very soon, because we're going to have to, you know, get wise to all this. Having a meter like this, you know, it's like as important as having a screwdriver. You know, everybody has to know what their exposures are, and it's an inexpensive meter. He says inexpensive, you know, because to get very accurate readings, there are meters on the market which cost tens of thousands of dollars. So this is what's called a consumer meter, costs under $200. And why I like this meter is because it's simple to operate. It's actually quite sophisticated and it's sensitive. And this is the most important quality in a meter, because there's a lot of meters on the market which are not sensitive and which are not particularly accurate. So you want accuracy and sensitivity, because no meter you'll buy is as sensitive as you are. Okay, we are the most sensitive, more sensitive than any piece of technology that you can buy. And it measures those three different kinds of EMFs: the electric fields, the magnetic fields, and the radio frequency radiation. It does it very simply. And you've got this. You've got the LCD liquid crystal display, and also the LED lights, which give an indication. And you just keep going through the modes to get to, for instance, now we're on electric fields. I don't know if you can see that, but you would just go, you would wander around your home with this, and go through each room with this device, looking for hotspots. And you will be amazed what you will find, because nearly every modern device now, right down to dishwashers, washing machines, cookers, even, you know, like my wife bought one of those blowers to blow the leaves. Even that got Bluetooth on it, okay? Nearly every device now is a smart device, obviously smart TVs, because we know we've got the smartphones, but smart actually means wireless. So smart is not smart. That's the thing to remember from today's talk.
That's a bumper sticker. That's a bumper.
Yeah, that's a bumper sticker. And so everything is having this technology, smart technology. Why? Because it's all communicating amongst itself in your home. So like the worst place in your home now, in terms of these EMF exposures, which, by the way, interact with everything, every living and non-living thing, even medication. Okay, that's a big one we talk about in the summit also. We've got, you know, some studies on that. Very interesting how it's impacting the dosages of medication. I mean, my God, can you imagine just that in itself?
Wow, that's new to me. That's remarkable.
It is remarkable. And so the kitchen is like, it's like, you know, particularly for children, and please let's just mention children while we're here, because that's the whole reason I started my website. as a father is when I got this thing and I went knocking on doors and everybody was like, you know, and even one neurologist said, well, look, you know, I've dealt with cleaning ladies and CEOs, and you know, this what you've got, it's all in your head, my friend. You know, she said to me, she didn't call me my friend, but and you know, it's a real problem, and it is affecting, you know, everybody. And the reason I started my website is because I wanted people to understand, particularly for our children, because children are, and this is the science which tells us this, children are the most at risk. Children are the most vulnerable, very, very clear. And that's why it's just really, it's horrible, really, the way it's going in terms of, you know, what it's doing to our health, but particularly what it's doing to our children and, you know, future generations and babies, and even, you know, kids before they're born, fetuses, you know, and the impacts on that. Again, I wouldn't say there's a lot of science, but the science is very concerning in terms of how it is affecting, you know, pregnant women and their offspring, in terms of autism and ADD and all these different diseases which we never had when I was a kid. You know, people that didn't exist. These, you know, these people, I never heard of them anyway.
Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. This is an arena that most of us have heard maybe a little something about, and maybe there's a problem somewhere, but it's an arena that actually is a big, big problem. It's one of the four sides of the pyramid of health. It's so important. In my book, folks, we talk all about it, about this concept of electromagnetic pollution and how critically important. It's just as important as eating toxic foods. It's just as important as any other possible trigger to bad health, to ill health. This is critically important, and maybe even the most important for some of us, because it's a sleeper. You don't know it's happening. You can't tell. So the idea of having a meter and checking your home to protect your family is a great one. That's just a simple tool, and that may be just a shocker. And when you check your house, you go, oh my God, look at this. Oh my, look at that. Oh, and it's just going to be overwhelming for you. And that's why this summit is so important, because Lloyd has so many experts on there. Dietrich Klinghardt is the go-to guy in the world on this kind of thing. He is brilliant, and he's put together a big picture of how our environments create our health problems. And so I'm really excited to listen to your interview with Dr. Klinghardt. That'll be fabulous.
You know, and one of the things that came out really for me of talking to all these people was, and I'm very happy that this was the way it came out, was it's about telling the truth on this, you know. Yeah. Because I've got the ex-CEO of Microsoft Canada, okay, and that is a really a gentleman called Frank Clegg. And that is a very interesting interview. And of course, we even talk about Bill Gates. And, you know, so how can you be like CEO of one of the biggest, you know, technology corporations in the world, and 1 minute, and then the next minute he's head of Citizens for Safe Technology in Canada, and he's campaigning for, you know, safe tech. This is just unbelievable. But why? Is because somebody his neighbors came banging on his door and saying, my God, you know, our kids, like, you know, got all these problems, and it's with the Wi-Fi and this, and he decided he'd look into it. And when he started looking into it, it was kind of, and then he met somebody, and he was just so, I think it was a guy from the utility company, and he was just so blown over by their arrogance on this, and just and that really, just for him, that was it, because he'd understood that all they were doing was just applying the letter of the law, because unfortunately the law, pretty much everywhere in the world, but particularly in the US, protects the utility companies and the telecoms industry, and they can really do what they want pretty much in terms of rolling out this technology, which is what they're doing with the 5G at the moment.
Well, this is going to be an interesting summit. I'm looking forward to watching it. And quite honestly, I don't watch many summits, because these are my friends many times on them. But this one I'm going to watch. And we've posted the link again. I see it in your comments box, everyone. There's the link. If you click on it now and register, it's free. And Lloyd will send you the announcements when it's going to begin, and so that you can have the option to watch it when your time is available. I think this is great. Lloyd, I want to thank you for this work you're doing. This is catalytic, man. You are a catalyst that's going to wake up a lot of people. Our goal is that thousands and thousands and thousands of people watch this just so they have a little more information. And they may turn it off and say, you know what, I've heard this before with one speaker, but then they'll come back for the next one. And I think that for all of us, we're going to learn a lot here. So on behalf of everyone who's watching, and of course from me, thank you so very much, Lloyd, for all the work you've done. I know what it takes to put one of these on. And so
yes.
Well,
thank you again. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for all the work that you do. Your book, I've not read it yet. I'm really looking forward to getting a copy and reading that. And yeah, amazing. And honestly, it's just great having you on board with this, because you're one of the, there's not that many people in the world that really understand this very well, and you're one of them. You've understood the dangers, and you're talking about this, and you're getting the message out. And it's not all about EMFs, folks, but yeah, so many thanks for that.
Thanks, Lloyd. Thanks. And for those who joined late, he's referring to this book that launches next week, You Can Fix Your Brain, 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. It's on Amazon right now, and because so many people have pre-ordered it, Amazon has dropped the price to $17. And it's a $26 book, so you can save $10. And if you order it now, and we're #1 in 7 categories with this book, which is really great. And so if you haven't ordered it yet, please do so. And Lloyd, just the hearts and the thumbs up are coming in. People are saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So and you'll see that when you look at this afterwards, all of the comments that people have made here. So thank you again, Lloyd, and thanks everyone for joining. We will see you next week. Until then, be well, and our love to you. And Lloyd, thanks once again.